everybody, it's Cindy A. Lewis, and it has been a little bit since I've been able to record, but I wanted to go ahead and finish up sewing in the signatures into my Red Truck Christmas journal. And I wanted to show you this one because it's a hidden stitch that we're going to sew in this one. So you can choose from the other that we did with the Cracker Box journal where you just do the stitches on the outside with the pamphlet stitch, or we're going to do a hidden stitch here and you can see how that works. So this is my journal cover and here are my signatures. Here I have 3 signatures. I do not have them fully decorated, but you can see I started working on them and it's turning out so cute. Anyway, we're going to sew those in. What you need to do the hidden stitch, again, you need your awl and some thread. You can use embroidery floss or you can use some kind of heavy thread. This is a waxed thread. I really like it. And then a long decorating needle. Then what I have here is linen book cloth. So let me show you. It comes on a roll, and I did get it from Amazon, but it's a book cloth. And it's a thick linen book cloth. It's a material, fabric type thing, but it has a paper backing and it's really thick and nice. And then to decide where you want your signatures, you need some graph paper. It helps you. You don't have to have graph paper, but because it's already marked on the lines, it helps a lot, so you can do it. You might need some scissors and some glue. I'm using this Tombow Mono Aqua liquid glue. You can use tacky glue or Fabri-Tac, whatever glue that you like, but it needs to be pretty strong glue. And then you're going to need some paper clips or binder clips and a Sharpie or some kind of marker. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to measure how wide and long your spine is. So I've cut this piece of graph of paper and I can see it comes over a little bit. I don't want to put any of my signatures over that edge, but I do want to make sure that it fits inside and laps over a little bit. So I've cut this to fit a piece of this linen book cloth, and it's going to fit down inside here in my spine, so you can see. All right, now I want the center of my linen book cloth, so I folded it so I know where the center is so that I can measure with this. Now I'm going to take my book cloth and my graph paper, and I'm going to fold it in half like this, long ways, and then I'm going to fold it in half this way. And now I have a center right here. This is how long my spine is, and that's the center of my spine. So I'm just going to put a mark there so that you can see that right here. All right. So you can see the center of my spine. I'm going to fold it in again here. I'm going to confuse you to the center, and then I'm going to mark that center right there like this. And then I'm going to fold from the top to the center. And now I have my mark here. Now if you don't want it that far down, you can move it up a little bit. But that gives you a good balance and gives you some room at the top if you need that. We're going to use 3 holes. So now I've got my center, and I have 3 signatures. You can see right here I have 3. So I'm going to count over because I have an edge where I don't want to sew. So I'm just going to count over 2 and 2 on this side and see if that will work and make sure it's still in my spine. So if I count over 2, I'm just barely there. So I need to count over. I'm going to count to the middle here. So I'm just going to fold that down right here in the center of that one, because you're trying to sew in 3 3 signatures. So I'm going to mark that. I'm going to show you right here in the same place. You see that? They're going to be tight because this is a small spine. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to count over and do in the center here, here, and here. Now I have marked where I need to punch holes in my spine and also in my linen book cloth. So I'm going to do my book cloth first, since it's not too thick. And I'm going to lay it right here on my text block that I have. And I'm going to take some clips and clip it down here and down here, just so it doesn't move. And I'm going to take my awl. You can use a toothpick, I mean not a toothpick, an ice pick or whatever. And so I'm just going to punch holes into my book cloth at each of these red dots that I put on and measured. So you can see where I punched the holes. So I'm going to do that on each one. And these are where I'm going to sew my spines in, my signatures in. I'm interchanging my words tonight. Maybe I'm too tired. All right. Now you can see where all my holes are that I'm going to sew into my book cloth. Now I need to take my signatures and I'm going to clip them together. And this is the center of this one. I'll make sure everything lines up and I'm not going over anything. Make sure it all lines up. Then I'm going to take some clips and I'm going to clip them on each end like this. And then I'm going to take my graph paper here. You can see. And I'm going to line up the center in the center of this signature. I'm going to take a clip. I'm going to clip it down the top and the bottom. And then I'm going to punch a hole right through the center there, through all my signatures. You can see it starts to come through. And sometimes you have to use a little muscle to get it through. So I'm going to do it for all 3 holes. And when you have pockets and everything, sometimes it's kind of thick, but you can see that one kind of went on the edge. Let's scoot it over a little bit. So it needs to line up here. All right. Anytime you make a little error, you can always cover it up with something. All right, so this one's done. I'm going to do that to all 3 of my signatures. All right, you can see that I punched my holes in all my signatures and they're ready to go into the book cloth. Now I've got my holes in my book cloth, got my holes in my signatures, and now I just need to sew them in. So what you have to decide too is where do you want, which one of your signatures do you want to be at the front, the middle, whatever. And so I like this one, and this one's going to be my first signature. So what I'm going to do though is work on the second one first, if that makes sense. So I'm going to sew this one into the center so it can be the middle of my journal. So what I do is I take my thread, and since I'm sewing 3 signatures, I want my thread to be at least as long as all 3 of my signatures, and then another one or a half. So I like to have a lot of thread just in case. And I just put my thread through my needle. All right, we're going to use the same pamphlet stitch, but we're going to sew it into the book cloth instead of the actual spine right now. So what you need to do is find your middle, find the middle here, and it's easier with the first one. So you're going to put your needle through that hole, and it's going to come through the back. And let me find it. I didn't want to poke myself. All right, here's the needle coming through the center, and I want to put it through this center in my book cloth. Now I'm going to pull that needle through and almost all the way through, and then I'm going to take a little bit of washi and tack down that tail so that I can tie it off in a moment. So I just got a little washi here. I'll tack it down like that. Oh, don't want to cover that hole. Just tack it down. A little messy tacky down. There we go. All right, so here we are. We put it through the book cloth and we're gonna pull it tight. Now you can go through the bottom or the top back in. So I'm gonna go through the bottom. I put it through the book cloth and then through the hole in my journal pages, my signature. And you can see it comes up right there. And then I'm gonna pull it. And it's easy on the first one because everything's not real tight and all sewed in already. And there we go. And then I'm going to take it down through this top hole that we just punched and through there. Make sure you don't get tangled. And then you're going to pull that tight just like that. Now, if you do want your threads higher up or lower down, you can certainly do that. Now, I'm going to take my needle and go back through this same hole right here that I went out of. And I'm going through that same hole in my signature. You can see it right there. And I'm going to pull it up. Now you don't want double threading, so you want to pull through your end. And then you're going to cut this off so that you can tie it around this thread here. You're going to tie it around this thread with the other one that you left, that tail. And I would tie it a couple of times. And then you're going to do that to all three. So you've got this one sewn into your book cloth. Now you're going to sew one to the back and the other one to the front here. And also just making sure your holes line up. And it just takes a little patience tying those off. And now I have one more to put in. You can see back here how the stitches line up. And they don't have to be exactly perfect just because they're going to be hidden, right? So then take your last one, sew it into the last three holes on the back. And then I'll show you how to put them into the journal. Okay, pull this through without poking yourself. And then cut that off. Tie your threads together around the center. Make sure you encompass that center. It helps hold it in place. All right. Now you can see how we're sewed into the book cloth. Now all your signatures are sewed, and they have a little bit of room for you to fill all those pages with beautiful designs. Now what you need to do is we're going to glue this book cloth into the spine. Then afterwards we can cover this inside cover however you want to. So the first thing you want to do is take some glue, and you want to really cover this inside with your glue. And you want it really good. Like you want it on the sides, you want it everywhere, all the way to the ends. And then I suggest just making sure, you can just make sure with your finger that you've got it in all the crevices like that. Then you want to put some on the back of your book cloth, just to get a little more to hold those threads in place, and all the way to the edges, which you can always come back and add to. All right. Now, what you want to do is make sure you're in the center. So you want to fold this in Make sure you're lined up. And this is forgiving because it is wet glue. And then you're just going to press that in. And then you can add more glue on this side here because you do want to do that. Press that in. And you also want to press it in here. And you're going to let it set a bit because it is wet glue. And you don't want it sliding around. So if you have any crevices or threads and edges that are not glued, you want to make sure you get some glue in there. So I've got a little bit here. And I want to make sure I get glue in there. And then I want to press it down. And then I'm going to make sure I have glue in here and all of these edges. Like that. And you want to make sure that it's all pressed down. You don't want to see anything that's open like that. All right, then you're going to want to let this glue set. All right, and then tomorrow or the next day we'll cover the inside, but we want to let this set before we handle it too much because it's got to set up. Anyway, that is how you do a hidden spine. So I just wanted to show you that, and that's what we did on this journal, and then we're gonna cover the inside edges once this is all glued tight. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed and you're inspired to create. Bye-bye.